All right, so thank you to everybody who's here joining us today. My name is Lisa Partida with Home Again LA, and tonight we have a special presentation presented by Emily Lopez with Burbank Housing Corporation. This is basically an informational session regarding their upcoming waitlist lottery that's going to be opening up on July 7th. So I'll go ahead and pass it along to Emily Lopez, who can explain to you the whole process.
Hello, everyone. My name, like Lisa said, is Emily. I'm the Community Outreach and Special Program Manager for Burbank Housing. And as you guys all know, since you're here, is we're opening up our waiting list lottery. We will be accepting the 4 income levels for our program. And I'll get a little bit more into who we are, how our affordable housing program works before I go into the live demo, just to clear up any misconceptions and things like that. Um, if you have any questions as we're going through it, you can put it in the chat, and in the end, we'll take a look at that as well. Okay, so go to the next page here. So Burbank Housing Corporation, we are a nonprofit affordable housing developer. We operate solely in the city of Burbank, and we own roughly about 325 affordable rental units spread across 5 focus neighborhoods. These are some of the pictures of our properties. Most of them are pretty low density, but they're we have 5 focus neighborhoods and they're all kind of spread out. It's not a waiting list lottery for a new development. So this is just for our current list. And yeah, basically, a lot of times people think because Burbank is in our name that we are a city department. We are not. We are a nonprofit organization. However, we do work with the city during our development projects. They act as our lender. They finance some of the properties with us through a loan. And yes, we're different from Section 8 because our affordable housing program operates in our units. If you're not familiar with Section 8, Section 8, you would have to, it's a voucher and you would have to find a private landlord who accepts it. With us, when we provide you, when you get on our waiting list and a unit becomes available, we know exactly where that unit is. And we try to do our best to place people in the appropriate income level and unit size for their household. Um, Another thing that's a little different, there might be some private developers that also have a percentage of their units that are affordable. With us, 100% of our units are part of the affordable housing program. And the way our program works, we use the state and the state of California for LA County. They set our rent and income limits for the program. So we work with extremely low up to moderate income, and all of those categories will be open during the lottery. And the way it works, our residents are responsible for paying their rent in its entirety. So it's not a subsidy. But it is an affordable rate based on the household income level. So, for example, a 1 bedroom can range anywhere from 640 up to 2,000, depending on where the household falls in the income range. And yeah, like I said, our waiting list is a joint waiting list for all of our properties. So that allows applicants to be offered the first available unit in our portfolio. So when a current resident moves out, we look to our waiting list to fill that unit. That's basically how it works. And I'll go into the next page now so we can talk a little bit more about the lottery itself. So if you guys can see, our application process opens Monday, July 7th at 9 a.m. And it will close on July 21st at 4 p.m. on the dot. Okay, so a couple things I want to note here. It is a lottery, so you could wait, you could submit your application at 9:05 on July 7th, or you could submit your application at 355, I wouldn't recommend that, but you can, and you would still have the same opportunity. So we just advise everybody to take their time filling out the application. If you have any questions that come up when you're filling it out, you can always contact our office and we can help you through it. We just prefer people to take their time so that there's no issues or corrections that need to be made after the submittal. Um, we will be doing an online application process for this lottery. And I'll go on to our website and show you exactly where everything is going to be located. But of course, at this time, the application is not available on our website. So if you're trying to find it, it's not posted just yet. Um, and yeah, so your application, because it is a lottery, has to be selected during the lottery to be actually placed on the waiting list. So qualifying for the program doesn't necessarily guarantee that you'll be placed on the waiting list. And another thing to keep in mind as well is our program is not a form of immediate housing. If you're looking for something within the next month, that's not something we can guarantee through this lottery. So um, it's not there, the units are not available at this time, but on average, you know, it ranges, but on average, we say about 2 to 5 years is how long it takes for a new household to get placed. It could be less. I've seen within a few months, but that's usually not the standard. So it just varies on the household size. And we don't really have a new unit or any new developments happening. So we just have to wait for current residents to move out so that we can offer those spaces to new people in our program. Um, and that's generally what I wanted to cover here. Then the next page here. So this is some information. It is posted also on our website. So if you don't have all of this information or you can't write it all down, don't worry. It is on our website. I'll show you guys where that is in a second. But we do ask, obviously that there have to be at least one household member that is an adult. And so that would be primarily the head of household. That person doesn't need to be necessarily the main income earner. It can be the person who can easily communicate with our office. So sometimes the main income earner has trouble dealing with emails or just maybe there's a language barrier or something like that. So something to keep in mind when you're selecting the head of household, but head of household is responsible for the application. So any changes have to go through that person. And yeah, also, if there's any other household members, whether they're children or someone in the household is pregnant, if they will be living with you, they are included as a household member. And we would also, oops, sorry, skipping ahead. You would also want to have an accurate calculation of the gross monthly income of every household member. So gross means before taxes or any sort of deductions from your paychecks or however you have whatever your source of income is. And so you can start looking at your current pay stubs to get that number. Obviously, we need date of birth for all the household members, as well as current mailing address and an email, as well as a phone number. And then looking at all the sources of income from the household. So we just want to know exactly where that money is coming from. It's a pretty simple application you'll see in a moment. But this is generally what we're asking for. So if you have this, it should be pretty straightforward. So now I think we can get into the actual demo of it. So I'm going to be filling out the application as if I was the Smith family. Okay, so we have John and Jane Smith, who are the parents, and then Lily Smith and Andy Smith are their children, and they're expecting a new baby sometime soon. Okay, so I'll change my the screen that I'm sharing. Just one second. We all see the website and everything. So this is burbankhousingcorp.org. This is our main website. If you just Google Burbank Housing Corporation, it should come up. But this is our homepage. So if you're going to want to apply, you would scroll down a little bit and you'll see this banner here. This is a new addition, but you would click Learn More and it'll take you to our lottery page. So the lottery landing page has a lot of information that I would recommend after this call, taking some time to look through everything. It gives more information about our waiting list process, the rental screening, and all of that. All of our policies. We do conduct audits of our waiting list every year. So just want making sure that you're aware that, you have to notify us of any changes if you are added to our waiting list and things like that. And then, of course, our eligibility requirements. So um, you can always take a look at this and see if you fall within the range here, but minimum income is 19,200 for a household of 1 to 3 people. And then as the income, or sorry, as the household size increases, the minimum also increases. Um, but it goes up to the moderate income here. So these are like the maximum for the program. If you make anything over this, you wouldn't qualify for our program, unfortunately. Or if you make anything less than this, then you wouldn't qualify either. So you have to be within the minimum and maximum for the program. Um, and then here are some sources of income that you could be looking at. So Social Security, disability, any cash aid programs, child support or alimony, um, salary, bonuses, commissions, all of that can be included. And I'll give you a few scenarios because I know not everybody's income, it looks the same every month. So it might be hard to come up with that exact number. So we recommend doing an average of the last 3 months. If that's an accurate reflection of what you will be making annually, then that's the number you should be using. And the only exception to the gross annual income I want to note is if you are self-employed, you would be looking at the net profit of that business, not necessarily the gross income coming to the business. And then, so this section over here is our how to apply section. Right here is where you'll see the actual application when it's available. It won't say this, it'll say something like apply now. And that would be where the button that you press to actually get to the application. Obviously, it's not working right now because the application is closed and this page is public, but in a moment, I will open up our application so you can see what it looks like. Just a few more information below the application, some frequently asked questions here. If you have any questions, they might be answered here. So just take a look at it. I recommend taking your time. It is a lot of information and I'll do my best to cover it through this call, but generally this is where you'll find a lot of the answers. So let me see if I can. Okay, can we see this? Do you see the application now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Uh,
Yes.
okay, perfect. So it might look a little different. Let me see if I can full screen it. So when you open the application, it might look a little different around the ends. This is just the back end for me to see. And what you'll see when you hit the apply now button is this. So it'll tell you, you have until July 21st at 4 p.m. to apply. Applying does not guarantee placement on the list or immediate housing. And just some important things to note as well is if you are ineligible and you're putting in your income, it won't let you go through. It won't allow you to submit. If there's an issue with your application, don't try to resubmit a new application. It won't reject your email if it's the same email. Give us a call and we can make corrections on our end if necessary. Or if we need to delete your original application and you can resubmit, then that's what we'll do. But just always contact us if there's an issue with the actual application. There is, again, we do a very good job of screening any duplicates. So just don't submit more than once because we're going to catch it and there's really no point in it. If you're not sure who's going to be part of your household, that decision does need to be made before So a household member that's an adult cannot appear on more than one application. Okay. Um, and yes, so we do income verification during the rental screening process. However, during the lottery, you don't need to submit any pay stubs to our office. It is kind of an honor system until obviously you do have to prove when you are offered a unit. If you're unable to prove your income when you're contacted, that might mean removal from the waiting list. Okay. Um, and just keep in mind as well, there's no specific unit available for this lottery. It's not for a new development. And yeah, take your time. There's no advantage in being the first to apply. So I think everything else we've pretty much covered. So you would just hit next and it will take you to this page where you would fill in the basic contact information for the household. If you are filling out this application for somebody else, make sure to use their email address because, like I said, if you use the same email to submit for multiple people, it won't let you, it'll reject it as a ununique value. So for this example, I'm going to use our general info email for work as well as our contact information. So if you're wondering what email to contact us with any questions, this is it, and this is our office number as well. Um, our office is closed to the public, so there is no in-person applications. However, if you are a person with a disability who does need assistance filling it out, you can make an appointment and we can try to help you either over the phone or schedule an in-person appointment. Okay, so this is our office address, but I'm just going to say yes in this scenario, because the next question, if I were to select no, it asks if you consider yourself homeless. The reason for is just to know if this is your actual home address or just a mailing address. If you say if you just want to use a different mailing address besides your home address, there is an option to also include that home address here, and that's just to confirm whether or not you qualify for our Burbank preference. So BHC doesn't have a requirement that you are a Burbank resident to apply or to apply for our waiting list. Anyone can apply as long as they income qualify. However, once you are on our waiting list, we do have a preference to fill those who will live or work in the city first. So we'll try to place those people before. And whenever there is space available, then that's when we would place others who are outside of the Burbank city limits. But like I said, in this scenario, I'm going to write no here. Then we'll go into the next section. And like I mentioned before, we have a 5-person household, the Smith family, right? It was the 2 parents and the 2 children and the one that's the baby that's on the way. So that would be 5 people, okay? So first I'm gonna fill in just the basic information for the household, very simple. We're gonna put John Smith as the first one, simple enough. Obviously the head of household has to be an adult, so we're gonna put his birthday to be over 18. It asks for his gross monthly income, and I'm gonna get back to that. I'm just gonna fill in the other general information real quick. So just give me 1 second. It just asks for the relationship to the household. So this is Jane Smith. That's his wife, John's wife. So I'm going to put spouse down. And then I'm going to enter her birthday. Pretty easy, self-explanatory. So once the other household members, you start inputting them, if they are an adult, it'll ask you for their gross income. If they're a child, it won't ask you. However, not every adult may have income. That's okay. Just put 0 if that person does not have any source of income. Okay. And then this is where I would put the children. So Lily Smith is the child of John and Jane. let's see, 2020. Um, and then so is Andy Smith. He was the other child. And then for the baby, if you don't know that you can just put baby Smith. When we see baby, then we know that it's a child that's expecting an unborn infant. So just put baby and the last name that the baby will be taking. Um, you can put child here. And then for date of birth, obviously they're not born yet, so you would put their expected date of delivery. So for this instance, I'm just going to put September 1st, 2025. Okay. So right now, when I scroll down, because I haven't put any of the gross income for the household members, it's saying that I'm ineligible. So it's not letting me move forward. This information here is being auto-populated from the other fields here above. So this is not something that you can enter yourself. Okay. So if you notice something that's like, oh, that's totally off at the bottom, it's probably an issue up above. So just keep that in mind when you're filling this out. But I think what I'll do is kind of give you an explanation of how you would fill this out depending on your income. So let me see if I can go back to the other page. Okay, so here's the family that we're filling out for. And this is the income, the imaginary income I made for them. So Jane's income is pretty straightforward. She works a standard 9 to 5 job. She has a salary and she knows what her monthly intake is every month. It's 3,500 each month. So her annual income comes out to 4,200 a year. That's her gross before anything gets deducted, okay? For John, he owns a business, right? So he has to look a little bit more in depth into his actual earnings for that year. This is because it's a business, he's looking at the net profits. So each month is different for John, right? So what you're going to look at is the last 3 months, and then just do an average. So for him, it comes to an easy 2,000, which is I know not the standard, but that's what we would use as his gross monthly income. And then we would get his annual income of 24,000 there. Um, if for whatever reason, let's say this is not what you're doing for taxes. Let's say it's much more because in December you have a lot more business or something like that, then you might want to look at your full year, the last couple years to see what your income is looking like annually, and that might be where you look for your gross monthly income. So you would divide that number, the annual number, by 12 to get to the number that you're going to be inputting to the application. So altogether, they're making 66,000 for a 5-person household. This is roughly about what we consider very low income. That's what the state calls it. So they would qualify for the program. So let's go back to the actual application now. Okay, so here, now that we know that his income is $2,000, we're going to put that in for John's income here. And for Jane's income, what we said was 3,500. I think it was 3,500. Okay. So then altogether, their income is the 66,000, and that, auto-populated on its own. The ineligible error message at the bottom went away. So now I can hit next and go to the next section. This is a unit size. This is something new that we're doing for our lottery application. This is our standard occupancy standards. So what that means is we'd like to keep people within these household sizes, right, for each unit size. You are able to request a different unit size. Let's say for example, for John and Jane, they would want a 3-bedroom for their kids. But they're a 5-person household, and that would put them in this range, in the 2-bedroom range. Here is where you would make that request for a larger unit, right? So here I'm going to say, they want a 3-bedroom actually. And we'll ask you, is this the only type of unit that you will accept? Now, it all depends on each household. If that really is the only size that you will accept, then say, no, I will only accept the unit size that I selected above. If you're a little bit more flexible, I would suggest doing, yes, I am open. And the reason for that is if we have a two-bedroom that becomes available, you know, we're not going to call you for that unit because you said you only want a three-bedroom. So there might be, you're opening yourself up to more opportunity. But again, every family is different. If you're really not going to accept a two-bedroom, that's okay. Just let us know here. Okay. So pretty straightforward. And then here we would fill out just where the income is coming from. This is the general question section. We know that Jane has a job and we know John is self-employed. So we would select these two, but there's more options here. If any of these fall into where your income is coming from, you can do that as well. And then this is just for our statistics. We want to know what is the average rent that our waiting list households are paying to see if it's something that if they're being overburdened by rent, something to keep in mind. It doesn't affect your application really. Um, and then if someone in the household is employed in Burbank, this is where you would mark yes. The employer address does need to be within city limits. If you are self-employed, obviously you would have to live in Burbank for that, for you to use your home address as your work address as well. And then also if anybody has a Section 8 voucher from a different city or from the city of Burbank, you would mark this here. And in this question, we do our best to accommodate households who require either an ADA unit or a ground floor unit for physical reasons. This might be a little, it might be a little different for each person, but you want to keep in mind that when you select yes, you're going to have to provide the name of the household member who is requiring that floor unit or ADA unit. But for this scenario, I'm going to say that they don't need it right now. Okay. And so then you would just hit next, and this is pretty much the end of it. So you just want to select all of the certification acknowledgements, basically stating that everything that is in this application is true, that you understand that this is for a lottery and that there's no guarantee you'll actually be placed on the waiting list. And yeah, just confirming agreement to those statements. I would fill this out as John, because he's the one submitting as the head of household. And then once you've done that, you will go and preview your submission before submitting. So if for whatever reason you realize something is incorrect and a phone number, address, something like that, you can go back and make those edits before you submit. But just take your time reviewing all the information before you hit submit. And once everything looks good on your end, you can just scroll all the way to the bottom. And we have a quick little verification we need to do here. And you would hit submit application. And that's it. So once you do that, it's taking a second to go, but you'll see this message, your lottery application has been received. Please check your email for further information. So you'll get an auto confirmation of your response. If you give me a second, I can try to find the email that's going to go out. It does take a few moments, so just give it like a minute or two, or check your spam. Sometimes it'll go there too. But for whatever reason, you check your spam and you check the rest of your inbox, it's not going through. There may have been a typo in your email. There might have been a technical issue as it was submitting. If that's the case, you can give us a call and confirm. We'll confirm for you whether or not we received it. And then if it didn't go through, then you have to try and resubmit again. Okay. So let me see if I can share that email, what that email looks like. 1 second. Right, so this is what the email is going to look like. Once you receive it, it'll just tell you you qualify for the program based on the information you submitted. You'll get an application update 6 to 8 weeks after the deadline. So we'll accept all of the eligible applications up until 4 o'clock on the 21st of July. And you'll be notified most likely by email, if not by a postcard in the mail. Only people who are selected during the lottery will get a postcard. Um, and yeah, so and it's just a few reminders and a little bit more into the actual lottery selection, how it works. It's all computer generated. And we don't know exactly how many we're going to be pulling just yet. We're waiting to get a little bit closer, like till the end of the lottery to see what our current capacity is for the waiting list that we have. And you'll also see here, there's an attachment where you'll see um, all the information that you just submitted. So if you notice anything else wrong after you submitted, you can check here and give us a call if there is an issue. But that's pretty much it for the actual lottery application. I think, Lisa, I don't know if we want to open it up now to questions.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and check the chat. So we do have a couple of questions. The first
Okay.
question or comment is my income will decrease in half by April 2027. How do I represent that on my current level application? Do I apply for both levels? And does non-taxable private disability insurance payments count towards gross income?
Okay, so that was quite a few
It
questions.
was like two, three, four questions in one, two, three questions
Okay,
in one.
so I'll answer the first part of it, which is, your income is going to change substantially. So I would apply what you're currently making. If you get put on the waiting list, then always an opportunity to modify once you've been on the list. As long as you can prove that when you applied, you were making that income, you should be fine. And then what was the second part?
Does non-taxable private disability insurance payment count towards gross income?
Um, Non-private. I'm not familiar with that. I know that we accept general disability payments. That might be a question that I would recommend maybe giving us a call during our office hours. We can try to answer. That's something I forgot to mention during our general spiel, but our property management is contracted through John Stewart Company. They do all of our annual resident certifications. So they are a little bit more hands-on on that piece of things. So that would be something I would definitely recommend giving us a call about so we can give you more information. Don't want to, share too many personal details over the call.
Got it. Okay. The next question is, my mom has been on the wait list for about over 2 decades. Is there a priority for those who have been on the wait list for a longer time?
2 decades. So I'm going to assume that you are referring to the Section 8 waiting list. And the reason I think that is because our whole organization has been around for um 25 years. The waiting list was not always around. So I don't know exactly the origin of the waiting list, but she would have had to get on right at the start of it, and I don't think that's um necessarily what's happening here. Like I said, we often get confused with there's also a Santa Rosa Burbank housing that we're not affiliated with. So we get a lot of phone calls because people think that we're either the city or the Santa Rosa Burbank housing, but we're not.
Yeah, I think
Um,
there's also a common confusion. One second, sorry, guys. There's also a common confusion between Burbank Housing and Burbank Housing Authority. So that's, yeah, very common confusion.
but yes, if she has been on our waiting, there is no priority for those who have been on the waiting list longer, uh, on our waiting list, just in general. Like I said, the only preference that we have is for people who live or work in the city of Burbank. And that's pretty much all there is. I could pull up our waiting list right now. I don't think we have anyone who's been there for more than like maybe there's like one or two people who have been there for 10 years, but they've been called for units. They just sometimes people are unable to move by the time that we call them, or changes in income or household size can affect how many times people or how long it takes for someone to be called again. So I hope that answers that question. Mm,
Next question. They're asking, I work in Burbank, so I would use, I think you already answered this question, but I guess he's just asking if he would use his work address as his home address on the application since he's been working there for about 13 years.
yeah, so if you don't live in Burbank, but you work in Burbank, you would just mark that question that asks, are you employed in Burbank? Yes. You don't have to use your Burbank work address as your mailing address if you don't want to. You can put your home address and you still qualify for the same level, same preference, whether you live or work. It doesn't make a difference.
Okay.
I hope that clears that up.
Yeah. Next question, is it mandatory to live and or work in Burbank to fill out the application?
No, we've had people apply from Florida before, so anyone can apply. Just obviously keep in mind, we don't know when a unit will become available. And usually we within a month people have to be ready to move. So definitely keep that in mind when you're applying. If you're not going to be able to relocate within a month, that's unrealistic from wherever you're living. Um, yeah, that might not be the best situation this program. Um, I see there was another question, how to add the CalWorks aid to the salary income
Mhm.
while filling in the application. For example, my monthly salary is 1,000 and I have 1,500 USD cash aid, how to calculate that. So you would combine both of those incomes together to get to 2,500. Those two incomes are eligible and would be counted this in the same manner. Um, if I misunderstood that, you can add more clarification in the chat as well. Um, if I find an apartment that is on your list and I see it is vacant, I want to apply, for example, through Zillow. I'm not sure who's putting our units on Zillow, but it's not us. So, yeah, you wouldn't be able to be notified when a unit becomes available unless you're on our waiting list. And we don't disclose the specific addresses for tenant privacy. We just don't want people to be driving by the properties and trying to, you know, looking around and stuff. We want to keep everything, keep the privacy of our tenants. It's important to us. And so, but when a unit is available, when you are on our waiting list, that's when we'll provide you with the address. You'll be able to take the look at the unit before you accept it. But you always have to keep in mind you have to qualify for that specific unit. So each unit that we have has a special income designation, meaning it's meant for a household of a certain income. If your income changes once you're on our waiting list, it's the responsibility of the applicant to let us know what that change is so that we can make the change in the application and we can offer you a unit that you actually qualify for. Um, let's see.
There was one right above that that says she's already on the waiting list. She wouldn't have to reapply, would she?
No, we're asking people not to reapply because, like I said, it's a joint list for all of our properties. So that would be considered a duplicate application and would get removed. Um, let's see here. Question, can I be head of household to serve as a main contact for the application when applying, even though I do not intend to live on the unit? So for this scenario, what I would recommend is you can add two numbers to the application. If you want to be the main point of contact and the head of household is comfortable with that, then you can put your number as the primary number and then also put, you can add theirs as the alternate number as well, the head of household. Um, or you can use your email as well. However, you kind of want to work it out with the people who will be applying or who will be moving into the unit. How many hours does someone need to work in the city of Burbank to qualify for working in Burbank? I don't know about hours specifically. It just has to be if you're currently employed right now, it could be part-time, it could be full-time. But as long as you can show that you have some type of employment in Burbank, then that would be enough to qualify you. And you would need to be employed in Burbank, not only when you apply, um, but also when you're called for a unit. So that's something to keep in mind. If your employment changes while you're on the waiting list, you want to let us know of that change. Um, let's see, there's a few more questions here. So, how do you reach out to someone on the waiting list when they are up? Uh, so we collect your contact information because we're going to give you a call first. We also send out postcards to the mailing address on file. And then if we still can't reach you, then we'll do it via email. But generally, you have about 7 days from the day that we contact you. If we don't hear anything after multiple attempts in those 7 days, then we have to move on to the next person. So definitely recommend, it's going to be our property management office who is the one contacting you, the leasing manager. So just, make sure you have space in your voicemail, check your mail regularly, things that we all do anyways. But yeah, definitely definitely keep us in mind when you're updating, changing phone numbers, email addresses, or moving, something you want to let us know about, so that we have your current contact information. Um, Fairview Village, which is under construction, is considerable applicable to this lottery. It's actually not under construction. Fairview Village, the village at Fairview is a new project. If you're unfamiliar, we are working on starting construction sometime next year. That might be, several year process. So is it possible that you could be put on the list and be offered a unit in Fairview? Sure, but you're probably going to be on the waiting list for at least 5 years before that were to happen. But we don't make specific building requests. Like I said, it's the first available unit. If for whatever reason it's not close, it would change your children's schooling. It would seriously impact the household for whatever reason. We'll try to accommodate as best as possible, but for preferential reasons, we generally are not as flexible, I will say. So, yeah, just something to keep in mind. We can't really promise that you'll have a balcony or anything like that. All of our units are very different, and you'll be offered the first available, whatever it is. Um, can we include cash support from family? Yes, you can do cash support. We would require, I believe, what's called a notarized letter from whoever is gifting that to your family, stating that it's going to be X amount each month for however long. And that's how we would need to do that, just to make sure that that family member is committed to sustaining this income for a long period of time. Do you accept DPSS welfare deposit from them? Lisa, are you familiar with DPSS welfare deposit?
Yes, so my experience has been that yes, you guys do accept DPSS. So, for example, if it's a household that is receiving CalWORKs, welfare assistance from the county, usually BHC does accept that as long as it meets the income bracket.
Yes, that's okay. Thank you for
Mhm.
that. Are the buildings new? What can't you have on your credit to not qualify? So we understand things happen. We're not looking at everyone having the best credit score possible to move in. However, we do a credit and criminal background check of every adult household member. And we also require, this is listed in our application, our lottery landing page as well. We also require either a social security number or a TIN number, a tax ID number. Um, so something to keep in mind if someone in your household is an income earner, but they don't have a TIN number, or a social security number, that's something you might want to work on just so that you're going to be able to verify the income that they're earning, at the time of the rental screening. And are the buildings new? They're they're all recently, some of them are more recently renovated than others. It just depends. Like I said, all of our units are very different. So in the beginning, you guys kind of saw some of the pictures. They're We do our best and we work with a professional property management company to maintain the units. Every time we have a turnover, we'll do, you know, paint and the general maintenance that needs to happen before a new family moves in. Um, and yeah, we do a really good job, I think, of maintaining the properties, because that's part of our agreements with the city. So yeah, the city works with us to, make sure that the properties are being maintained properly as well. So um I'm trying to see if there's another question here. What's the difference between Section 8 and this program? I think we covered that in the beginning a little bit, but if it wasn't clear, um, basically Section 8 is a subsidy, a voucher. So you would, once you're on the Section 8 waiting list and you get called for a voucher, that's generally run through cities' housing authorities. That's a city department that handles that program. It's a government program. We are a nonprofit organization. We're not part of the city, although we do work with them. And our program works, our affordable housing program is basically provides affordable rent for households that qualify. Um, and the household is responsible for paying the rent in its entirety. It's not we're not saying to the city it's 1,500 and then you only pay a part of that and someone else pays the rest. It's just the set rent rate. I hope that clears things up. And we do annual recertifications. So every year our residents have to go through a process to verify their income. Um, let's say if you were born slash raised in Burbank but had to relocate, does that count as a Burbank resident? Unfortunately, no, it does not count as being a Burbank resident. You would have to either be employed in Burbank or somehow make your way back. That's it. That's the only way, unfortunately. Um, do grants and financial aid count as income? I think it would depend on the type of grants, but I know financial aid is not considered a source of income as well as any CalFresh or food aid
Mhm.
programs. Those are the only two that I know we don't accept at all. Um, if you were called for a unit but are not able to move at that time, are you still able to remain on the waiting list for a future opportunity? Yes, you can remain on the waiting list. You would have to be moved to the bottom and kind of start from that process again. We give households two opportunities to be offered a unit. And if for whatever reason things are just not aligning, then we just kind of have to, sometimes we do give more than two opportunities, but it has to be some health condition or something a little bit more serious for us to be flexible and allow more that household to remain in the position that they're currently in. Um, but for the most part, if it's just not being able to, it might be a move to the bottom of the waiting list. Let's see, how long is someone usually on the waiting list for an accessible unit for a two-bedroom? Um, that question I don't know. Because most of our ADA units are one bedrooms. All of them are one bedroom. So a two-bedroom we wouldn't be able to accommodate at this time. The most that we could do is probably a ground floor unit, a ground floor two-bedroom. We do have plans to expand that with the Fairview project, but like I stated, that's a few years down the line. We're not quite sure when that is expected to start or even finish. So, yeah, something to keep in mind there. Um, yeah, I'm not quite sure on your income. Is it pet friendly? So we say general pets are not allowed. However, if it is a service animal, obviously it is allowed, as well as certified companions. Um, some of our residents do have animals, um, but it just depends. It's a case by case. Um, and I think that we actually got through all of the questions right before 6 o'clock. Do we want to open it up like let people unmute for any
Yeah,
questions?
if you'd like, yeah, I have no problem with that.
Okay. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to unmute. But I think we covered a lot of information. And again, if there's a question that is personal, you want to talk to someone on the phone, give us a call. Our number is 818-559-232 592336. I'll put it
236.
in the chat.
I
Yeah,
Oh
have a
yeah.
so if you guys want to
question.
give us a call.
I have a question.
Sure.
I'm currently in a shelter in Whittier, but
Okay.
I work in Burbank. I know you said you have to live over there. I will still be able to apply, correct?
Yes, you can apply. So you would actually, because you work in Burbank, you would actually qualify for our Burbank preference, which could speed up your process if you are added to the waiting list during the drawing. So there's just a question in the general question section of the application that you would mark, yes, I am employed in Burbank to have that preference. And then yeah, that's how you
Number, can
would
you
do
repeat
that.
it? One,
The number, yes, it's in the chat. It's 818-559-2336.
2, 3, 6.
Yes.
Much.
No problem. All right. Any other questions?
Okay.
I think I think
Alrighty.
we shared enough. Okay, so no worries. Like I said, July 7th through the 21st, you can go to our website, fill out the application. I'm also gonna put on there the link to the landing page, but you can easily access it from our homepage. If you just look us up on Google, Burbank Housing Corporation, you should be able to find it. But yeah, I think that pretty much concludes the workshop. I don't know, Lisa, if there's any closing things you have to do.
No, but I just want to thank everybody so much for all the wonderful questions. It was very informative, even for myself. I learned a couple of things as well. So I just, wish you all the best of luck when you guys do apply for the lottery. And thank you, Emily, so much for presenting. Thank you so much for your time.
Of course. Thank you guys for
All right.
joining.
Oh, and just a reminder, if you guys want to get the video, please include your email address in the chat. I'll stay on a little bit longer if you guys haven't had a chance to submit it yet. So I'm going to be sending out the video no later than Friday this week. All right.
Thank you, girls.
Thank you.